So West Ham have officially signed Edson Alvarez. It's not officially our first signing of the summer, but actually let's call it our first senior signing of the summer. Certainly the first signing that allowed me to shave this off. I said 25 million and over. This is definitely that. We think it might be 32 million plus add-ons. He signed during the night, apparently, in the middle of the night. Why would you sign in the middle of the night? Unless his body clock is so messed up from the travelling and the time zones and the jet lag and all that stuff that he was just still wide awake. Bing! Eyes wide open at 2 o'clock in the morning. Can we just get this thing signed now, please? I think it was Fabrizio Romano actually broke the news in really, really early this morning, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So someone was up late, put it that way. I guess that makes it a little bit more interesting in terms of him playing against Bournemouth, doesn't it? Because whilst he might be registered in time to play against Bournemouth, is he able or capable to play against Bournemouth? Moyes is really cautious, isn't he, with this stuff as well? He's not normally the type of manager that just throws somebody straight in. He likes to ease them in a little bit. That being said, we are not in a luxurious position. Well, because we don't have any. It's not we don't have any players, but midfield we're a little bit light on, and that's even if you discount the Lucas Paqueta stuff, which I'm not going to talk about in this video because I think there's going to be more likely to happen in the next day or two. It's all go at West Ham at the moment. What is interesting is the Flynn Downs part of the story. Now, there's a lot of news circulating that West Ham, well, David Moyes in particular, those are the stories. Don't blame me, it's not my story, but that David Moyes wants to offload Flynn Downs permanently. This is a bit of a weird one, but if he does, then I think it's more likely that Edson Alvarez starts against Bournemouth. The Flynn Downs one is interesting because clearly Flynn Downs is not part of the deal to bring James Ward Prowse over to West Ham. As we understand, the James Ward Prowse medical is happening right now, basically. When I say right now, at the point where, what is it, 10:15. 10:15 in the morning. So, I don't think he's part of the deal, Flynn Downs. I think it's just a straight deal, £27 million for James Ward Prowse plus £3 million in add-ons. So Southampton want Flynn Downs, which I sort of get that. And they're going to be quite rich in terms of they're going to have the money there to do it because they've sold James Ward Prowse and they're about to sell Lavia. It's really funny. They've got a 50 million price tag on Lavia and Chelsea bid 48 million. They're going to come to an agreement there, you would think, wouldn't you? So they're going to have the money to buy Flynn Downs. But I think this would be a bit foolish. The last thing we need is more money at the moment. We've already got loads of it. If we sell Paqueta, then we're going to have even more of it. I'd send him on loan. If he's got to go, and if David Moyes wants him out, look, we don't even know if David Moyes is going to be here next season. I guess if he starts buying all of these players, it looks more increasingly likely that he'll get offered a new deal. But I know what the board are like. The board will not offer David Moyes a new contract until the end of this season. So we really don't know. I mean, with that in mind, even if David Moyes wants to get rid of Flynn Downs, we'd be really rather silly if we sanction the deal now. And then Flynn Downs has a really good season at Southampton, becomes one of the best players in the Championship, which he is highly likely to be because he was already that when he was at Swansea before. And then, David Moyes goes and we have a new manager that might actually want him as a player. I think the best thing we can do is just hedge your bets. Keep your options open. Why would you close off one particular avenue? He's a West Ham fan as well. You know what? I just think it's an odd thing to do, and I don't really like it as well. I'd like to have got more of a chance. Really, also we just don't know. We don't know if Alvarez is going to settle. I suspect he will. I mean, he's been playing over in Holland. He's a tough tackling. I was going to say beast of a player. I think he is actually. If anybody doesn't know the type of player that Edson Alvarez is, a couple of days ago, Gio did a video over on the main channel. He spoke to a Dutch Aston Villa fan, funny enough. No, but it was a really, really good video, actually, and very insightful, and certainly told me an awful lot of things that I didn't know about Edson Alvarez. So go and check it out over on the main Hammers Chat channel. The link to the channel's in the description below. It's really interesting. We're buying a defensive midfielder, absolutely a defensive midfielder. Not a fast player, that's not my words, but well, they are now, I guess. Which is something, as you all know, because I've said it in previous videos, is a worry for me. I hope we are going to go out and buy some players now that are a little bit quicker. But he's a specialist. He can play at centre back. He's a specialist tackler. So I think that's what we got. We got someone to sit in front of the back four or the back three. Funny, I've just the interview will be up on Hammer's Chat on the main channel later. I've just interviewed Tony Gale just a minute ago, and Tony's convinced we're going to play a back three actually. So that'd be really interesting if we do. Whatever it's a back three or a back four, I think you'll see Edson Alvarez sitting just in front of it. But anyway, look, it's a signing. It's our first signing. I expect James Ward Prowse to be signed. Well, it's got to be 24 hours, so he's got to be signed. It's got to be signed 24 hours before the game. So he needs to be signed, sealed, delivered, holding up his shirt before lunchtime tomorrow, hasn't he, really? So I think that will be done. I think it will be done. But look, we'll deal with that another time. The Harry Maguire one, I think that's going to take a little bit longer to get over the line. That's why I've not done the sort of dedicated Harry Maguire transfer video yet, because I think it's his settlement to leave Man United that's yet to be agreed. So, I mean, it's going to... That's still got a little way to go. And to be fair, it's the least desperate of the three, because we do have a good centre-back pairing to start against Bournemouth, really, don't we? One thing I do want to cover at the moment is the transfer rumour. I think his name's Folarin Balogun. Now, I know about this player because, even if I can't say his name particularly well, I know about this player for two reasons, actually. Last season, West Ham were getting linked with a manager called Will Still. And he'd done really well over in France. You remember the story. He was he's a West Ham fan. There was this big story about him learning his trade by playing Football Manager, which wasn't the case. He just sort of likes gaming, and he is a football manager, basically. But he had a Balogun on, I was going to say rent. He was renting him. He was renting him from Arsenal. I think we might call it a rental. I'm going to start calling loans rentals, actually. So anyway, he was on a rental agreement, Balogun, over in France. Played really well. It was only, I believe, Kylian Mbappe and Jonathan David who scored more goals than Balogun. Arsenal have whacked, slapped this whopping great £50 million transfer fee on him, which is far too high, and he's just not worth it. But he's a good player. So I watched him last season. I'd actually watched him before that, because if you remember, we were linked with Eddie Nketiah, who, and I remember looking at this article, and the article said West Ham linked with England under 21 player and Arsenal striker. And so I went and looked at him, and it was actually Nketiah, but what the search gave me was Balogun. So I watched this kid. So I've sort of been aware of him for a little while. He's a really good player. He's an instinctive finisher. He's fast. I tell you what, he's not a David Moyes player, though. He is not a David Moyes player at all. And for that reason, I can't believe it. But that being said, Danny Ings not a David Moyes player. Skamaka wasn't a David Moyes player, yet we still signed him. So we're very capable of signing a striker who doesn't fit David Moyes' system. It just doesn't. He's not physical enough, and I think that's the reason I don't believe this link. So yeah. Anyway, and hey, look, what do I know? Really good player though. 50 million? No, not at all. Not even close. I just think there are other players out there. Don't you get Jonathan David? I think you get Jonathan David for less than 50 million, actually. Whether West Ham do, I'm not so sure. But anyway, there you go. That's your transfer roundup. As of today, going to be really, really interesting to see what else happens today. I think quite a lot. They're like buses, these footballers, aren't they? All leaving before you can get to the bus stop.